watch is a documentary. Just wait. You're about to watch a documentary about a children's program called Game of Village. And this is, I think, one of the absolute most groundbreaking children's programs I have ever seen or heard of. I think it is a program that has the potential to change the world. I think it is a program that can be utilized here in Liberland communities and can spread through alternative education communities like absolute wildfire. It just takes people knowing about the program. So when we're building a micro nation, a new community, we are in essence playing Game of Village. We are building the buildings, we are creating the relationships, and that's what these children are able to do starting at a really, really young age. This program was first founded in 1974 in New Hampshire, and it now operates as a summer camp in the summers and is run by the founder's niece. Her name is Amy. And when I met her this past I met her in New Hampshire this past June, I found out she has actually run Game of Village as an after-school program here in Serbia. She has also ran it in Poland and Croatia. So this is something that has a lot of synchronicities for me because I learned about this program at Greenbrier Intentional Community where I live. We're a community that is designed around educating and raising children. This year, we will be playing Game of Village at Greenbrier on Tuesdays, and our theme this year is Revolutionary American History. So children are going to be able to create their own homesteads. They're going to learn math because they're going to be using scale, 1/24 scale, to make miniature people and miniature villages. They're going to have their own property that they get to manage and maintain. They're going to create their own economy. They're going to create their own government. They're going to create their own rules, and they are going to learn lessons that we here as adults are learning now. Because we all grew up in a top-down society where oppression and coercion is what children, at least in my generation, were subjected to. School tells you what to do, church tells you what to do, parents tell you what to do, and it is very top-down. This gives children the opportunity to learn how to build community from the bottom up. So I would like to invite you all to sit back and enjoy the next 40 minutes of this documentary about the Game of Village. And afterward, I am going to be talking about both Greenbrier Intentional Community and Game of Village, which I think are implementable models here in Serbia and in Liberland as it begins to develop. Enjoy the show.
Around the bend and I'll come back again for that good old Mountain Dew. Woo-hoo. They call it that good old Mountain Dew. And them that refuse it are few. I'll go round the bend and I'll come back again for that good old Mountain Dew. Woo-hoo.
Hello, my name is Bleish. I'm from the Górale region in Poland. I've been traveling the world for a number of years, interested in peak medical care. I started playing Village when I was 13 years old in 1983, and I remember it just being such a thrill. After life in school, where your time was so regimented, so structured, you will spend 45 minutes on English and then 45 minutes on math, and then you'll have 45 minutes to eat and play, and then there'll be, all that. To get to Village and just sort of be told, build a village.
A peep is a being that you create out of pipe cleaners and yarn, and then you make clothes for it as well, and clay for a head. They are typically about 3 inches tall, which is 6 peep feet, and you need a peep to play the Game of Village. So you and your peep build a house, participate in the government, and build a community. Work jobs, run a business, anything you want to do.
When they create their little cushion, that cushion can be whatever each child decides that person is going to be. It can be an extension of themselves. It can be somebody that they wish they could be. It can be somebody that they admire.
So, you want a piece of clothes? What kind of ask for them and I'll make them.
Because it's hi.
Hi. Yeah.
I'm a river guide, and I'm wondering if you could make me a wetsuit.
Yeah, but that's kind of...
He's got boxers on under here, but his pants don't come off that easily. And he's got his shoes on. In my hair. But since my hair is so curly, I had trouble putting it on.
Hello, I'm Henry. I'm a peep rights lawyer. I work for the Republic of Peeps, and I've been helping to build peep villages, for decades now. Henry was a lawyer when I made him. I mean, he practices law, and at the time, I think that's one of the things I imagined myself potentially doing. That didn't happen, probably for the better. I became a professor and an educator instead. But so I kind of practiced law through Henry, across my career. Kids make peeps that are, an ideal person, but they also sometimes use peeps to explore like alternative possibilities. Someone from a different culture, a different race, or a different religion. We once had a peep who was a Buddhist monk and built a house sort of in the rushes next to a pond, and no one saw what he was doing. And one day, other children were nearby, and they discovered Alex's peep had built this beautiful Buddhist temple in the rushes next to the pond. And it was just a very calm, collected person.
Marcy, I have an update. I asked. It's a way to travel fast. So you are carrying inside your bed's stomach?
I'm a pirate from basically a different universe, but roughly the same idea. I was from the 1600s, which was actually surprisingly. Fun fact about me is that that's when piracy was actually mainly consistent because there were less hurricanes. And I've really been learning a lot of stuff about myself and other people and how to treat them, which I find really fun.
Kangaroo kicked off my arm, and that's why I moved here, because I don't like kangaroos a lot, because one kicked off my arm.
Is that a pet skunk?
Yes, I said I have a pet skunk.
Do we have to worry about him spraying?
Jerry's ready.
Only if she doesn't like you. It doesn't need to be filled up all the way. I know a lot about gardening, so trust
You garden at your house?
Yes. Those look neat. They look like nuts. 2 more.
In general, it's just everybody gets to kind of do what they want during Village. You can make your house, you can make a stand, you can make a business, you can work at the radio or the bank or the peep store.
I want to either work in the peep store, or I want to make my own business in sales marketing or peep statues. Here we go. 10 gold.
Over here is some foam corks, and then empty box. We don't know what that's for. And then this wood carving and cutting and stuff. Hey Stella, do you want Friday off, or do you want to work Friday?
I'm really looking for a day off.
Okay. Alright, then you can be second. I make sure everyone stays in check. I fire people if they need to be fired. I help decide many of these prices. We had a lot of fun putting keys together like this to make chandeliers. So it was really fun. We had a lot more of these, which are glass, but they work really well for a colorful walkway.
So this year I am working at the radio. I am a co-manager with Everett, and basically, we take requests. We have a box down there where you can put a slip of paper with the name of a song. And we play songs people like, and we play playlists, and we can do segments and interviews on the radio, like the weather or interviewing a new peep who has just come to town, something like that.
My peep, he's a bank manager this year. The town and the peep store has a bank account. And that all has to be run by my employees and me.
Over the years, I think I've built close to 40 peep towns, starting with towns in New Hampshire, but also building towns on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, in Poland, at summer camps in Poland and Slovakia, a few in Serbia, and in Madison, Wisconsin.
Do you want to play golf, but it's smaller than small mini golf?
We try to have the children in charge of as much as they can be in charge of. There are some ground rules, which are things like no hurting people or peeps, and everyone has to clean up at the end of the day. And, obviously you have to use tools safely, things like that. But then the particular decisions about how you spend your time and what you want to invest your energy in is very much a matter of kids' choice. You have kids who will decide to spend all of their time working on a building. Someone else will spend all of their time writing for the newspaper, or you could spend all of your time goofing off in the woods and playing with frogs.
Oh,
Playing with Alan.
yeah. He's been missing for, I think, 3 days now. I grew up in this area.
Yeah. Hey, I'm trying to get that. What did you want for what? Go off.
One year, I was quite the entrepreneur, and I never would have thought of myself as an entrepreneur, but I had so much fun realizing what I could create that everybody else wanted to buy from me. And that became a pretty large focus for me that summer. Next summer, I didn't actually spend as much time focused on that one thing, but what I realized was that I actually could be really great at this particular thing of creating and then selling a product. And I never would have explored it if I hadn't just accidentally fallen into that. I needed to make money so that I could pay for my house, thinking about ideas, and that's what I came up with. And it was empowering for me to realize, oh, if I can follow my ideas, they're not always going to work out. I definitely had some things that didn't work out.
Bigger ones are $7 peep dollars. Mediums, also known as classics, are 5 or 6. And the tiny ones are like 3 or 4.
One of the things that Kia Island, who was the godmother and creator of Village, used to emphasize and was so important to her was that all kids can find some talent they have that's useful to the whole group. Someone might be a great builder, someone might be a great, statesperson, moderator of meetings, or a great journalist, but everyone's got something to contribute to the collective project.
So the game of Village starts with my grandmother. She was, as a very young child, used to play with her cousins. They created tiny little spaces, and they had little people. And as she got older, she ended up having a couple of other experiences that sort of synchronized together to create a program that would make it so that kids could play in miniature, but experience what we all do in the real world in small. So they all got to participate as bankers or radio DJs and write in the newsletter, all the while being little tiny people. One of the philosophies of it is that the children are leading the experience. For so much of her childhood, she didn't feel like she could say what was going on. She didn't have the voice. And so she wanted to give that to any other child. And it turns out that kids are incredibly wise. And so we do need to listen to them. My grandmother's not your milk and cookies kind of grandmother. My grandmother's the kind of grandmother who takes you on a ride to fight against nuclear power, to inform a whole community of people about what solar power is. And so she was always pushing past boundaries and going that extra step.
From a hill, a chalet and barn overlook forest and pond. It is here that children from across the region gather together to create something uniquely their own, a children's nation. The game of village is many things. To an adult, it is a successful educational experiment. To a child, it is more. For each child stands in the midst of the world he or she has created.
Welcome to you. Welcome to the new community. What I hope is that you're going to get your houses online by the end of this week. If you do, it'll be glorious.
Look, if you think that...
First things first, kids will just draw a sketch of what they want their house to be. So what it looks like from the front, maybe a floor plan or two. Just like, and this is a time where they can just create anything they want. If they want it to be a pentagon or a hexagon or any fun shape, a tree house, or like by a river or something. Like we have a house that's on stilts. Like, this is when they draw up their rough sketches of their house, this is the time that they can be the most creative. And we really push them to be creative and to make really cool designs, like houses made out of completely plexiglass, or on stilts, or in trees, or like anything the kids want to do.
Okay.
So this is the ground, right? Yeah. And then the stairs are resting on the ground, same as so is the middle section.
So kids really have an opportunity to say, well, but my peep, I think I want my peep to live in a tree. So then peep can live in a tree. It's going to be complicated because we have to figure out how the house is going to be in the tree, and whether there's going to, how we're going to actually have support systems in place, and how the peep is going to get to the house. But it really gives them a chance to have dreams and pull them into a place of actually being able to work with it.
They make a cardboard model, so they cut out all their wall pieces out of cardboard and they attach it together just to see what their house would look like. Then they fill out a lumber order, so that's where the math part of village comes in. So they need to find the area of each of their walls so we can calculate the price. We need to, the older kids, with the older kids, we teach them like Pythagorean theorem so they can calculate their triangles and their roofs.
No, dude, 24 and I'm 80s, so that's... No, dude, stop. Just... I also love that kids get to know like power tools or how to saw or how to make correct measurements. Not only having fun, but it's learning in a fun way. Science and math, there's a lot of math in making your lumber order, so figuring out the wood shapes that you needed.
So right now I am making a little like walk-in room for my house. So where you might put your shoes and hang your coat, that kind of thing.
Remember, don't make the cardboard model too detailed.
Well, I have a very intricate house, so I've been having fun. It's like, it seems hard when you start it, but there's a lot of steps, and if you just like slowly go through each step, it slowly looks more and more possible. So it's been fun getting to see that come together right now.
My plan for my house is to build a mushroom house. So initially there's a hexagon as the bottom part, and there are 6 different panels going upward, and there's going to be a hole in the top, and the roofs in all of the peep houses are removable, so then you can design and make the things.
Everybody's had a chance to explore this land. And everybody has had a chance to think about where they might want their house to be and pick out their tree, their rock, their lettuce farm, whatever it is that they want. So we'll ring a bell, and everyone will walk to the spot that they want. After that's been more or less worked out, we'll ring the bell again, and then everybody can start staking down their string. And the strings have all been measured out. They're all exactly the same length. They're 40 feet long. So everybody gets a 40-foot perimeter, which of course means that depending how you stake it, you could have slightly different amounts of area, but you get the same perimeter.
All right. So land rush beginning.
But I already put want my shiny one.
So did I. But I got more out. Why do you like this spot?
Because it's cute, nice, and if anything falls over, my peep house is safe, and it has trees. Also, it's just cute, and it's near this area and this area, because I wanted to live in the forest, but I really like this sunny area, but I don't love the sun, so.
I'm building a haunted house, and so all the berries fell off.
Oh, that was awesome.
And so now they're haunted apple trees. Because this used to be the owner of an apple guy, and he was super rich, and he wanted to marry this lady. And when the lady showed him her real face, he didn't want to marry her anymore, and so she cursed his apple orchard. And now
The lady was a witch.
the lady was a witch, and so now his apple trees never grow apples.
Guinea hens are a large threat to all peeps. Last year, an eye was pecked out by a guinea hen, my peep. He had to have instant surgery to replace it. This year, there is a entire house dedicated to clearing out guinea hens and chipmunks from the area with crossbows, I think. Tiny crossbows.
No, it's coming for it.
Hi. That peep's been through enough with wild animals. Are we for the weekend?
You know, maybe someday I'll do it, but today's not the day.
Is there anything Jerry could do to make amends with your skunk?
I think that the town meetings were really surprising and like really awesome to me. Seeing these kids like come up with these ideas and work in a democracy together and solve problems for the town all on their own without the input of adults was really, really cool to see. I couldn't believe, I was blown away by their imaginations and the way they solved problems.
With both amendments, the one that passed and the one that has not been voted on yet, we don't have down how it's going to be decided who the work group is.
Correct.
So if the law passed, we wouldn't.
We could then have a separate law about who's going to be in the work group.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think it would make it a lot simpler if we, made an amendment that was like, the work group will be decided by a sign-up sheet. Just,
Okay. Do you want to propose that as an amendment?
Yeah.
Is that friendly, Max? Okay.
Yes.
That's friendly.
And then another small thing, I feel like having it divided up and like having each person have their own little section, I feel like that just overcomplicates it a bit. And having just a basic idea of 500 allotted split between all people who sign up, I feel like that just keeps it simple, and the people who are actually doing the work can work that out themselves.
I feel like Jack's idea was really good because, if people get paid for if they did more, some people might just fake about doing a lot more.
Depending on the people, it's like how we would have a set budget to spend on hiring people.
Yep. You've talked to a bunch of people about how exciting it is at Village to learn how to make things and to really learn the craftsmanship and to actually make real things, right? I mean, to learn how to weave, to learn how to use a hammer, to learn how to use a power saw, things like that. I think it's really important also to understand Village, to understand that kids learn how to really solve problems together as a community. And that's what happens in the town meetings.
I motion that we have a library. 2 people would be working on the architecture, and 2 more people would be working on the interior design.
When people live together, problems arise. And at Village, there are certain problems that come up over and over again. Someone figures out how to make a chair, somebody else copies the chair, and the first person who made the chair says, that was my idea, you took it. Or somebody steps on something or breaks something by accident, right? And so you start having people complaining, he did this, she did that, it's not fair, what are we going to do about it? And kids will come to adults and say, fix this problem. What we do at Village that's different is we say, well, no, you're going to fix this problem, we're all going to fix this problem together. It very much at the town meetings are about fixing problems. Trespassing, vandalism, counterfeit money, all sorts of things.
It's not going to take much time to clear out that small area.
Okay. So there's a motion on the floor that we pay workers $5 golds per minute.
We never did the math, and if 8 people work for an hour, they earn 2,400 gold altogether.
And when that's half or that's basically
That's over our budget.
That's half the town money. Okay,
Motion in front of you is pay work crew 5 gold per minute each to clear out town centers. So all in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, yes. Any opposed, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, no.
Okay.
Any abstentions means you don't want to vote. 0 abstentions. Okay, so the motion fails.
I think it's actually really good for people to be learning, okay, this is how we can make laws. This is what an amendment is. And in general, the whole thing is so fun because, like, sometimes a law is, like, really funny.
Could you domesticate snails? In other words, if a snail wandered onto your property, could you make a fence around it and consider it, a domestic pet? And so this went to town meeting as a great issue of debate. And all sorts of sides of the questions were considered. What if a snail came onto your land? Could you move it, right? Or was that infringing on its right as a wild animal?
There was a village recently that made a law that if you stole something, you had to pay the person you stole it from half the value of what you stole.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
There was a corrupt Nigerian ex-dictator in the town, and he sold the town surveying crew some donuts, which they ate, that cost the town all of the town's money. So it wiped out the town's money, and the town couldn't get it back because they'd eaten the donuts. So what are you going to do? So then it took them a while to figure out what had actually happened. They had to go back into the town records and look at the books, but then they had to figure out how were they gonna recover their money. You could have a private lettuce farm, or you could have a public lettuce farm.
What's the public one then?
A public one would be owned by the town, but you could be growing lettuce on it. But the town would have to agree that it was going to be a lettuce farm.
But I want to make it private, so I own it, but I want to still sell it.
Okay, so you could do that. In that case, you'd have to have it on your private land. It's the collective decision making, the collective sharing of problems, sharing of perspectives on a problem, and having the authority to decide how to fix it, and then to carry out that fix that I think is crucial to what Village can do.
Okay. So then we also have a community college course on surveying. You agreed that by the middle of next week, you'll provide a map. You'll survey your land and you'll give a map to the United States of Peeps. So it's a 2-part process. The first part is taking the measurements, and that's what we'll be doing today, using compasses and rulers, taking the measurements of your plot.
We're gonna measure from that point over to this point, from that point over to there. We've labeled each point, so starting like this is A, and A is 36 degrees to B. B to C is 342 degrees. So we've gotten off to a pretty good start.
Then they work on furniture, interior design, all sorts of things. They sell beds, shelves, tables, kitchenry, all that sort of stuff comes afterwards. And then they can also add more stuff. So if they want to add plumbing, my dad's house, when he was a kid, he had plumbing in his house. Electricity is big. We use little LED lights and battery packs that go on roofs really easily. So yeah, basically the more you add to your house, higher it'll be appraised.
They're both getting 1.5 volts. How is that possible?
I don't know. People found stuff out.
Because they're going here, and then they split up here, and then they connect back here, I guess.
Right, but last time when we split it, they each took half the voltage, and they were dimmer.
Wait, where does that black wire go?
Wow, we're gonna do this a little faster.
Sit on the floor?
Sorry, I meant sleeping bag.
Sleeping bag. I have a very big order where he ordered a bed, a couch, which currently isn't put together yet, but now I'm working on his second chair. He really enjoys chairs.
So these women came and visited Harrisville and taught, and they have their 5th generation weavers, which means their mother, their grandmother, their great-grandmother, their great-great-grandmother, and their great-great-great-great-grandmother all were weavers, and they're weavers now. And so they teach weaving, and they also are, they work with museums, and they try and help like look at old rugs. It could be a skunk bed, or it could be a dog bed, or it could be a wall hanging, or it could be, let's see, what else did they say? It could be a blanket. And these are little looms that are made in Harrisville, and they donated to us. But it's great to be able to work with the kids, because this is the kind of thing where as you keep going, they quickly catch on, and it gets to be really rhythmic. And it's the kind of thing that you can start doing for your peep at Village, but then you can keep doing it.
These are time to take them off.
It's like an office / historical society / library. Yeah. So. But I've had a lot of help from Gary over here and from Jaina for doing all the interior stuff. So basically tomorrow is appraisal, and today is the last day they have to finish their houses. So we have lots of people like working on furniture, like last minute doing furniture in their houses, painting. We still have some people assembling their houses, like Jillian over there with the boat, but he's doing great.
Different people work at different paces, different people have different priorities. Sometimes somebody chooses to make a really complex house, so we have some village campers who have decided to make something really complicated, and some of them are not done yet. Some people just had other things they were interested in, so they're kind of a little bit further behind, but that's part of the reason we do this progress chart, is to see who needs some extra help and who we need to support to help them get done stuff on time.
I mean, we're gonna finish it all up with caulk in the very end, but I think I'm probably gonna be able to finish it. It's just gonna be kind of last minute and rickety shack.
That's as small as Garrett Sawyer.
One of the first weeks, one of the kids had kind of rushed ahead and nailed his house together already, and I wasn't really sure how to nail a house together, and I was trying to teach another kid how to do it. And this one stepped up and he helped me, and he held things together for me, and he helped explain things to the other kid, and it was really so cool to watch him like step up and be helpful and take on a teaching role as a peer, which I think is something that doesn't happen enough in classrooms, and it happens a lot at Village, and I think that it's so wonderful to see them share that and get to help each other and get to learn from each other.
You got mugs for sale?
Yeah.
Mugs for sale!
Yeah, I might get it. I'm still thinking though, because I have a lot of pets so far. Over here is my limited edition hammock / trampoline. It has a boing to its step.
I cannot frown, but I can move around because my face is made of clay.
So I originally come from Nottinghamshire in England.
But in the 1600s, I came over to the New World. I orchestrated what you now refer to as the Salem witch trials. And yes, it was realized that my views were somewhat out of date, so I've been attending a wellness center in the Catskills where I learn the ways of the world in 2023.
This is actually my first house ever that's opened up from this side. Or that's opened up by hinges in my 4 years. So the bottom one is Drip King's and the top one is Bob's. It's not very well furnished, but it's not really good at making furniture, so.
They are doing a whole lot of work exploring who they think they are as themselves and how it is to be that person that they are within a community of other people. And I think that what's really special about this game is that it's organic and it can move with the times. And so, you know, it may be, for example, right now we're exciting experience of looking into what gender is. And for the children to be able to explore the world in the eyes of that little person, there's enough of a separation that they can safely ask the questions and explore without it coming back to potentially hurt themselves. If you're a child who really struggles to read or write, and there's this layer of safety. It can be your peep who's struggling, not so much you. So you can say, my peep doesn't know how to write, or my peep, you know, is struggling with this. Can you help me? And it gives you that layer of, you know, it's okay to ask for help.
I bought the chairs and the table from Everett. I brought those two from Nova, and I got the plants from Lucas for free because they don't look very good.
People almost are working out psychological issues, life issues to their peeps. I mean, some of the most poignant peeps are the ones created by kids who are experiencing like real sort of family stress or family separation or divorce. We once had a peep that had been in a surfing accident and cut in half, which just tore at your heartstrings, right? And I'd like to think that playing with that peep and kind of creating a life where he'd come back together as in some kind of whole was useful to him.
See, these are my reading glasses. I'm getting old, you know, I'm 36, and my seeing's fine, you know, but when I'm reading it's a little tricky, so I read a lot, so I got some reading glasses.
After lunch, there'll also be a chance for people to write real estate descriptions.
And it's basically a real estate pitch. So if your house is small, you could say, this cozy building with like an open floor plan, which means like if you don't have a lot of furniture, you can say that, or you can say well furnished, whatever it is. Just find a way to spin your house in the best light you can figure out. And there have been tons of times before where a good blurb has significantly brought up an appraisal. So yeah.
Situated off the main premises, this property contains a grassy knoll towards the edge of town that's perfect for camping under the stars or just enjoying an afternoon picnic.
She's got this beautiful little table.
Bed.
She's got a dog and 2 puppies in here, and then 4 snakes on the bed.
Wow.
Oh, her windows have glass and they have frames. So then once you've decided how much everything is worth, you want to add it up.
Located in a gorgeous fern forest close to the grassy field, this house is perfectly situated to read a book in a secret spot, chill in a teepee, or survive torrential rain.
There are so many beautiful rugs.
That scribbled path leads from the edge of the land to the front entrance, providing an easy walk-in. This is a nice house.
There's a little pet bed.
Wallpapered as well, fully wallpapered.
A little pet bed for the pet. That's for her baby. For the baby. Never mind. But there's a dog in there. Okay. It's a crib. It's a crib for the dog and the baby. Okay.
So this is my house. So you got lighting inside. You got a rug and another rug. And this rug is used as a bed. And then you got his dog. And then downstairs below, you have a table.
There's lighting inside and a bed and a sofa. It's on a zip line. It has no windows in case someone's afraid of heights. And it's on top of this rock.
Hello, everybody. I'm John. I'm a commissioner here at Village, and we are so excited because it is the mini fair. Da-na-na. If you take a look around, you can see we've got a Ferris wheel. We've got the Wheel of Terror. We've got zero gravity, a gorgeous lettuce farm, and many more exciting attractions.
Alright, this is the theater building. It's really cool. I'm gonna make it around to the other side.
so much scissors!
I have it. We've got the big red curtain here. Then you raise it up. And we've got a little interior scene of the Peep store. Or just the whatever. And that's Spring Rock. And that's we have more scenes that can exist. Part 4.
1, 2. Initially, with this, there are cups, and they're attached to a string, and then we have these 2 round parts, and we spin this. It's very manual. It was inspired by a ski lift and a gondola. So we're doing the money exchange at the mini fair. So $1 US gets you 5 gold. Back.
At the local bake sale, we got some cheesy bread muffins from Everett. Peanut butter chocolate chip cookies that I made. From yours truly. Lemon squares that I also made again.
What people are doing is they're making Insta Peeps, which are basically little peeps made out of clothespins with a pipe cleaner arm.
I do it overseas.
And basically, Insta Peeps are what visitors make during mini fair.
Don't miss out on the Ferris wheel! Alright, is that all? Get your fresh lettuce! It's nice and green!
And the plants, oh, it's all just so darling. I love it.
Thank you so much. Ooh.
Beautiful. Thanks for your business.
Beautiful snake. Thank you so much.
I have to finish this one, but after this is finished, I can do that. I can do your peep.
Oh, I went on some wonderful rides. So much fun. And I'm so glad I don't have hair, because if I did, it would be such a mess.
I love
the purpose of the mini fair is not only just to have fun, but to fundraise for future efforts to make camp more accessible for people who are wanting to join us. And it also funds our auction, which is a wonderful way to end the season for our campers.
The first item in the auction is some soft gray female clay. Oh, I want that. You want to talk about its attributes?
This soft gray female clay can be used to make things like gray wolves.
I love in the very end, we get appraisals and they'll give it a number of gold. And then that money plus all of the money that you've earned throughout Village, minus the money that you've spent, is all put in your bank account. And then on the last day, on Friday, we have the auction. We all get to bid on real life toys. So like balsa wood airplanes is what me and Max would always get. Or there are sometimes Lego sets, or last year there were magic cards.
Playing often, remember that, if you're the winner of this, playing often will help children speak more clearly, develop a larger vocabulary. You didn't know that. This is true. And strengthen social and emotional skills.
Oh, you should bring this home and play it for your parents.
The musical instrument that strengthens social and emotional skills.
And your parents
above all else is the kazoo. So let's start the opening bid at 50. You'll get 50 gold from Lockhart. 70, 80.
I just really like these.
90 to Lockhart. Going once. Going twice. Sold to Lockhart for 90.
Yes!
Lockhart, your entire life decisions.
And my house actually has some lace on the bottom. It was put on by tape because I had like 1 minute before we were doing appraisals. And we have my peep and my bed, couch, ooh, snake, tiny mushroom. Yeah, and today we're cleaning it all up. I'm gonna be sad to leave Village, but I'm glad that I'm coming back next year.
they're able to like see each other's value and see that they each have things that they are really good at that they might not have found in other ways, and they get to like really like explore themselves and find out what they're good at, but also see what their peers are good at in an out of the classroom situation, which I think gives them a new perspective on each other, and I really love to see that. It's gonna give them skills for their whole life, and being a counselor, it's given me skills I didn't have that will stay with me for my whole life, and I think that that's such a unique experience, and I'm really happy for them, and I'm happy for myself. I think it's just been such an amazing experience, and it's really, I wish every kid in the world could do it. It's been a really, such a cool thing.
I would say my favorite part of Village is just being able to like meet new people and kind of like have your own thing that like is kind of hard to have when you're a kid.
That initial question of, how much of our living together, should be kind of our private individual striving, and, how much do we need to build collectively, I think is something, it's wonderful that kids get to explore that in Village, but it's also something we as adults in the societies we live in need to engage with. And whether it's in a town, in a ward of a city, right? There's so many ways that on a school board, right, making decisions, on a neighborhood, community group, right? There's so many ways that people can come together and, frame out the world they want to live in.
Part of the joy of Village is that we are building something together, we are creating a democracy, or we are making decisions, we are solving problems, and it is fun. It gives me so much hope for the future to see these kids making these decisions their own, making this community their own, taking the authority themselves to get involved, to solve problems, to fix things, to live together in ways that work. And when I say ways that work, I don't mean that they all go smoothly right from the get-go. I mean they don't, but then they fix them, and they get along, and they learn about each other, and they learn to live together. And it just makes me think that we can do this.
They run, there is old done and young, done's younger son, and young will be it done when all done is done. There is high done, low done, and under done, over done, all the other done, down by the bay, where the watermelons grow, back to my home, I dare not go, for if I do, my mother will say.
Have you ever seen a Noah taming a boa?
Down by the bay, where the watermelons grow, back to my home, I dare not go, for if I do, my mother will say.
Have you ever had a time where you couldn't make a rhyme?
No! Down by the bay.
All right, guys, thank you for enjoying that documentary, Game of Village, with me. For those of you who sat through it, we were already having inspired dialogue before the credits started playing because it is a really, really inspiring program. And I am really excited to have the opportunity to be a part of this program at Greenbrier Intentional Community, which is where I live. I presented on Greenbrier at Liberpulco last year, and I've started talking about it at different events that we've been putting on. So you'll see this was presented a few different times. I've got the dates up there. And we're not really going to be focusing on the topic of Greenbrier today, more so Game of Village. But I learned about Game of Village through Greenbrier. And my experience living in an intentional community, we often joke and say we are actually doing real life Game of Village. And we are. We're on 173 acres in the heart of Central Texas, and we each have our own homes that most of us have helped build. Even though my husband and my children and I moved into a home that was partially built, we have built the rest. We work on our own roads, which are dirt roads, so they do take maintenance. We run our own power, which has proven to be, for me, the biggest obstacle in playing real life Game of Village, because it costs money and it's highly technical and you can't just have any volunteer do it, right? We run our own water. We have 2 wells, one of which is currently operational, another is not. I would love to see solar set up on that one and have a second well. Living in community is not simple. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not easeful. It is not the path of least resistance. In fact, choosing to live intentionally in community is one of the most difficult things that I have ever done. And yet, it remains outside of parenthood the most rewarding. Just like having children, choosing to live in community forces you to self-reflect. When you are eliciting a reaction from the people you live with that is pretty uniform, you have a general idea of who you are in that space. When you have people expressing positivity or resistance to you, you know how you are functioning in that space. So living in community causes you to really look in the mirror, because if you don't, you'll find yourself not in community. In fact, it is a requirement to be a part of the community and in order to stay in the community. People who show up and don't get on vibe don't stay long, do they? If you are trying to join a community that is focused on educating children, like the one where I live, and all you're thinking about is partying and doing other things, well, you're probably not going to get invited to join, first of all. But second of all, if you do somehow get through and into a space that you don't actually align with, you will find yourself gone. Whether that is through intentional accountability mechanisms built inside the community itself, or just natural human action. Because people don't want to be around people that they can't get along with. It's natural. You create space from that. Some people don't talk to their parents because of this, right? It is something that human beings go through and have to figure out in order to coexist with one another. And what I find so interesting is that the community in which we find ourselves here, and I don't mean specifically Liberland, I mean the broader philosophical community of freedom-minded people, of libertarians, of philosophical anarchists, of voluntarists, people who believe in non-coercion. We often demand accountability from institutions without the willingness to take accountability with ourselves and one another. And I have seen this my entire span of activism, right? Started out Ron Paul community, 2008, and you know what? There was a tendency to centralize there. That was my first rebellion against the rebellion, right? When I realized that the Ron Paul campaign was centralizing itself into Campaign for Liberty and funneling donations and he's not running for office anymore. What is Campaign for Liberty going to do, right? I'll support an individual running for office who's on a philosophy platform, right? But I'm not just going to go put my time and energy into some organization that doesn't really have that level of oomph and push, right? So I went to the Porcupine Freedom Festival in New Hampshire, which is what I would consider an intentional community. I don't know if they self-identify as an intentional community or not, but it is this movement to get 20,000 people to move to the state of New Hampshire so that they can create the freest state in the United States. They got the signers, people agreed to come, and they're showing up. But you know what happened in the early days of the Free State Project? Turmoil, chaos, drama, because who shows up first to a Move Here project? People with nothing left to lose. You lost your job, you're addicted, you don't have any friends, it's easy to get in a car, have enough money for a tank of gas, and show up to a Move Here project that has low barrier to entry, right? And I watched that community move through that time period, and move through they did. I would say the people who are showing up now are families, right? The first Porcupine Freedom Festival that I attended was in 2009, and the last one I attended was this year. And in that time period, there are now as many children at Porcupine Freedom Festival as when I first went, there were adults. So they are breeding out statism. And it's working. They're growing families, they're focusing on children, and they are coming at it from all angles. They're running for office, they're starting businesses, they're making babies, right? They are coming on a full-on front libertarian presence, right? And they're doing a great job. It's really cool to see. And I think that most Move Here projects go through that phase, right? They go through that phase. Anarchapulco isn't actually a Move Here project, but there was people who moved there, right? They showed up in Acapulco, they stayed there for years, some are still there. It happened organically. But what happened in the early days, low barrier to entry, anyone with nothing left to lose, they're showing up, and you saw what happened on the documentary, The Anarchasts. Worst case scenario. Many people lost their lives in the worst case scenario of a Move Here project gone haywire, right? Poor choices don't result in good things. Our community had to move through that, and move through it we did, right? At some point we realized, I don't have time for all this drama. I don't have time or energy. I don't want to talk to you if you can't figure it out. Right? Too much. And when you reach the point where it's too much, you raise your standards and you stop allowing that level of chaos, drama, negativity, hostility into your life and into your community. And that is the only way that a community can find success. It's it. That's it. That's the bottom line. It doesn't matter what your focus is. You could be a vegetarian, vegan, whatever, Christian community. It doesn't matter. You choose your theme. The bottom line is, can you do conflict? If the answer is no, you're doomed. It's over. If the answer is yes, you can probably make magic, as long as you're dealing with ethical people. But if you're good at dealing with conflict, you're going to move through it, right? And it's going to be beautiful. Well, I got to the point where I was exhausted with my activism, and I said, I don't want to do a Move Here project that's in its startup phase. It's not for me. I want to go somewhere that is established. So I got on the internet. I literally line itemed exactly what I wanted. I said, I want chickens. I want my family around other homeschooled children. I want a dirt path that walks from one house to the other where my children can safely play. I want to be in the forest. I line itemed what I wanted. I posted it on Facebook, and 4 people told me about Greenbrier Intentional Community. 4. I attended 2 potlucks and moved my family there. We got sucked into the vortex. It was very quick and easeful, but you know what? This community does not have a low barrier to entry. Most people show up, enroll their children in school, attend potlucks, whatevers, and put in a lot of time and energy. But there was this weird window of time during COVID, right? And I was living in a converted school bus. 3 kids. We're into homeschooling. We're into all the same things that are happening in the community. It was just a natural, easeful fit. So we ended up at Greenbrier. And I didn't want to talk about it with the public at first because I had no idea if this place was just going to be another drama-filled whatever. There is some conflict there. There's human beings there. But what I've watched happen in my 5 years there is that the design of their community is such that accountability mechanisms do kick in. It's slow. I've learned to like slow. As an activist, I wanted fast and hard and now. Freedom, right? That makes you tired. I'm tired of being tired. And I had a learning curve at Greenbrier to slow down. Decisions made in haste do not benefit communities unless there is an emergency, right? I have seen time and time again the conversation process play out in the Greenbrier community through very difficult decisions. The old me, when I moved there 5 years ago, was so annoyed. This takes too long. But you know what? When you live in a community that makes decisions on consensus, which is what Greenbrier does, I had never practiced that. I came from the political libertarian mindset, Ron Paul, democracy, democratic republic. In the end, some people's voices are louder than the others, and they win, right? So showing up and learning how to do consensus was mind-blowing, because you literally have to talk to everybody. And you sometimes have to say, I disagree, but I'm not going to get in the way. I see y'all are on a thing. I'm going to watch you. I'm sorry, there's a thing in your balloon. Why don't you go get Sissy backstage, okay? Anyway, I don't know where I was. Mom thing happened. Help me. Consensus. Consensus. It's hard. Yes, you have to talk to everyone. And you can't really show up to a community meeting not knowing where you stand on something, because if everyone shows up to a community meeting and there haven't already been conversations taking place, you know how long those meetings last? Like, you really got to go sit on your neighbor's front porch and talk about it, right? We're having electrical issues. What are we going to do? There's this much money in the community account. What are we going to do? Do we need to charge an electrical surcharge? You don't want to walk into a meeting if you don't know that everyone's in alignment with paying an extra $30 a month to rerun a certain wire for X amount of months or whatever, right? Because then the meetings take forever. And I'm having flashbacks to my Ron Paul campaign days with the 5, 6, 7 hour conference calls, when really, it forces you to have strong relationships. It forces you to work through conflict. It forces you to drop your ego, because if you walk into a community setting and you are so proud that you can't meet someone in the middle, you won't stay long, because they're not going to want you there. And I've actually seen it play out. I've seen Greenbrier remove people from the community. It happened several times since I've been there. And early on, I stayed out of it because I didn't know the dynamics well enough. I didn't want to get in the middle of it. I didn't feel like it was my place. But I look back at that and I think, wow, this is phenomenal. Consensus. Everybody must agree that you get to live here to live here. Wow. Think about that for a moment. Now, where I live at Greenbrier, I don't own my house. My house and everything I've put into it is a donation to the 501c3 nonprofit. It's on 173 acres. There's maybe 25 buildings. And they're all so unique. There's a dome. There's a old house that was getting knocked down in Austin that got taken down and relocated and rebuilt on stilts. There's houses like mine where multiple cabins and barns and pieces got added together to create like something you've never seen anywhere else, because it's very organically, year by year, generation by generation created. And it is intergenerational. There are grandparents living on site who raised their children through the 70s and 80s who now have children that are raising them there. It's incredible. Can you imagine being in a position right now, today's economy, today's society, today's global climate, knowing that you're in a space with people that you can figure out electricity and water and education for your children together with, right? And that you can hand that down to your children and that they can participate in that lifestyle when that lifestyle has just been driven out of our society, it's incredible. It's incredible. So Greenbrier's been there for 56 years. And they have been through it, right? They have conflict. They resolve conflict. Just show you a few images here. Here's some of the older pictures from the archives. March 26th is my birthday. I share a birthday with Greenbrier. That feels special to me. Oh, that font is horrible. Sorry, guys. I'll be changing that after this presentation. At the time that I updated this most recently, which was June of this year, and I believe this is probably current, 18 child residents, 25 adult residents, 30 students, that's gone up. This is actually our highest level enrollment since I got involved. This will be my 6th school year. 9 teachers, 13 cabins, 5 school buildings, 1 community garden, 1 swimming pool, and 3 playgrounds. And there was a point in time where there was a school bus coming from Austin, so it was a much bigger school, maybe 100 some odd students, whereas I arrived during COVID, so bear in mind it was mostly the children who lived on site who were attending. So this is actually an older picture of our schoolhouse. We did have a donor show up this year, and this past year, she did a ton of work on our buildings. These buildings were built in the 70s, and they were built by hippies who were inspired by the free school movement, which is the same thing that inspired Game of Village, which we just watched the documentary on. Some of y'all missed that. I hope you watch it in the replay. So the vision for Greenbrier is to inspire a passion for self-directed lifelong learning and growth. Isn't that phenomenal? Because aren't we always learning? And isn't that what brings all these adults together right here, right now? Is we come to learn from these great thinkers and great doers. We're learning beings. It's what we are designed to do. The mission is to nurture a community that offers student-driven educational programs and that provides a campus to model compassion, cooperation, and life in harmony with nature. So for those of you who watched the Game of Village documentary, you see why this is so applicable to Greenbrier and why I think it's going to be such a good fit. Because as I started with, at Greenbrier, we are playing Game of Village. That's what it is. If this is simulation, if we're playing a video game right now, wow, what a cool opportunity. I get to play Village at Greenbrier, in the woods, in a cabin, raising my children with super like-minded people in a way that feels completely in alignment for me. Nothing in my life feels out of alignment. There's all this tyranny, all this horrible, all this oppression, and guess what? I'm doing it the exact way I would have picked. Nothing is interfering with my ability to do my life that way because I made the decision that this is how I'm going to do life. At least during this season of my life, I'm going to raise my children to know who they are, to not feel subservient to adults, but to be able to communicate with them and each other. Because those are the skill sets that most of us did not learn growing up and that we are having to teach ourselves now. That's hard. That's complicated. That's a lot of time and energy and effort. Thank you. So a lot of our classes are outside, even the academic classes. We want kids to have fresh air, to be able to move, to have their feet in the sand. You can't see here, but most of these kids are barefoot. You see some little toes sticking out here. These children get to be themselves. This is my little homestead in the community. This is Josie a few years ago holding chickens. She loves chickens. That's my son William. He's now 12. He's standing in the livestock yard where we now have goats as well. Living in community has allowed me to have a lifestyle that I couldn't have trying to do it by myself. I couldn't buy 173 acres right now by myself. I couldn't do it. The game's rigged, right? But some visionaries in the 1960s started these communities all over the United States because that is the year nonprofit status became a thing. And they bought properties, the farm in Tennessee, Black Bear Ranch in Northern California, Raven Rocks Eco Village in Ohio, Greenbrier in Texas. They all started at the same time. And they've all got a lot of land that people can't buy now. Hippies can't buy land now. Hippies are like hardly able to afford living in a van, right? Like van life is all like glorious and fabulous and expensive and unaffordable, right? These hippies bought land and started schools. That goes to show what's happening to the value of the dollar. Here's our garden. That's me holding a jar of mulberries. There's mulberry trees that grow everywhere. These kids know what they can eat in the woods. They know what they shouldn't eat in the woods, and they teach each other. This is a type of knowledge I longed for in my DNA as a child. And in a classroom I sat. This is a girl named Elise, my daughter's best friend, and she's making a fire with a bow drill. And this is food from the garden being grilled at a community event. Here's the kids playing Game of Village, right here. So Game of Village, the documentary was about Game of Village. What is this amazing program? If you have anyone in your life that has children, you're gonna wanna know about this program because it would be a gift to your friends' children, to your own children, to your grandchildren, to anyone you know's children. This is a game where children get to build a society. They learn math because it's done on a 1/24 scale. So they are learning how big should my house be for my 3-inch peep who would be 6 feet in real life. They have to learn how to do that math. They do area and perimeter. They stake out the area they're going to homestead. They make decisions together as a community. Who gets this spot? Who gets that spot? They make their own rules. They make their own currency. They start businesses. They decide if they're going to have community land or private land or both. And these children are working this out in an environment where the adults serve as commissioners, and they're the facilitators, but they aren't the bosses. The children are running things. They literally build their own miniature houses to scale. They build their miniature people to scale. They learn about a time period in history. So this year on Tuesdays, we're doing Game of Village at Greenbrier, and we're doing Revolutionary American history. Why do you think I want the kids to learn about that? Right? These kids that are growing up right now have no idea what they're living through. So let's talk about that. So they're going to be learning about 1965 all the way through, 1765 all the way through 1783 when the Brits pulled out of America. These kids are going to get to learn what a monarchist government is, what a constitutional republic is, what it is to be a revolutionary, and what it is to be a bootlicker. They're going to get to learn about the native tribes, which engage in consensus decision-making. And the cool thing about picking this time in history is that all three of those forms of governments and lifestyle choices got to interact in real time. So these kids get to choose. Am I a redcoat monarchist? Right? No, I'm a revolutionary for sure, right? I'm so excited to make my peep. I haven't decided what her name's going to be yet, but she's a revolutionary for sure. And they build their houses and they make their economy. And at the end of the game, there's an assessment, a value made on their property, and they get to cash out their profit. And then they have a big party and a festival, and they're paying in their peep dollars or whatever they decided to call them, and they're getting to really have this fun experiment. These kids build Ferris wheels for the fair. I mean, they really get into it. Ferris wheels that can move with levers, and I mean, they're learning physics. They're learning engineering. They're learning how to build, how to construct, how to communicate, how to negotiate, how to figure things out. They're learning math, they're learning history, they're reinforcing their reading and their writing and their research ability. But the most important thing in my mind is that they're learning how to get along even when they disagree. And boy, don't they have something to teach us adults, right? How easy do children laugh it off and go run and play? And how heavily do we carry our stress with one another? If we're going to build a free society, if Liberland's going to work, we have to figure it out too. And this is where we get to play Game of Village. right? We get to build real houses. We get to build real roads. We get to actually create a non-124 scale game of Village, but like a real life 3D in the flesh thing that we're not just inheriting, that's already corrupted by totalitarianism. It's incredible. So I have this idea that next year, when we do Liberpulco, I want to play Game of Village with the kids. And I want them to homestead a 124 scale Liberland and see what they decide to do, because I have a feeling we can learn a thing or two from them. I have a feeling that they might be creating ideas that we don't have the ability to even find in our mind because we were raised by the oppressive state. They're not. So why don't we play Game of Village? Why don't we do a model Liberland? And why don't we see what these children have in store for us? Because in the end, they'll be in charge. And the way we raise them is really gonna matter. On a personal level, we are going to suffer the consequence of how we raise these children. And if we don't raise them with the skill set to navigate through conflict, to hold one another accountable, to build, we're screwed. We have to teach them those skills. And this program is amazing. It's incredible. I believe this can change the world. And if you watch the documentary, she mentioned it's already run here in the Balkans before. She ran Game of Village in Serbia. It's amazing. The connections, the interconnectivity, the synchronicity. This in a school, this in every school would change the world. Because not only would the children be learning how to get along together, but they would be teaching the adults how to do the same. Because in this game, the adults aren't in charge. In this game, the adults and the children make decisions together, and guess what? That's how it is at Greenbrier too. My real life Game of Village. The children, the teachers, the staff all have an equal voice and an equal say in how the school is running. The kids don't like the way the chores are getting assigned. Let's change it. The parents don't like that school ends at 3 because the kids want to stay till 3:30 and the parents have to stand around till 3:30 anyway. Let's change it. Let's extend the day. The kids don't want a Christmas break. The parents may not be willing to participate in that one. But the kids love it so much, right? That they literally would rather be going to Greenbrier than having a Christmas or spring break. That tells you something. When you're providing a space that children want to be, that is also simultaneously teaching them these skills, I can't think of a better program. I can't think of a better opportunity for us to start shaping the way things are going to be in the future. Y'all are sweet. So our school body, as I mentioned, it's run by the parents and teachers. They all give input to rules, curriculum. I mean, we have some parents who are like, my kids are here to socialize. We do school at home. Cool, right? There's kids who come 1 day a week. There's kids who come 4. We accommodate to what the family is seeking. There's some kids who they come 4 days a week and it's the only academics they're getting, and that's important to them. We make sure that children and families are shaping the way the school runs. And that means changing things when they're not working. And that's the magic, right? When things aren't working, if you can talk about it and come up with a better way together and then do the better way together, and you can avoid all that drama and all the energy that gets sucked out by the drama vampire, right? And instead you can just have a direct conversation and figure out a plan and do it. It's amazing. It's amazing. So I mentioned the school is run by the school. Well, our community is run by the community. And the role of the community is to make sure that the school has the infrastructure taken care of that it needs. So we have community work parties where the community shows up and we will remodel something that's falling apart on the playground, or we will clean out a building that hasn't been used in a few years and get a dumpster and clean it out, or maybe an electrical line broke because of a windstorm. We have these community work parties to manage things. And as I mentioned early on, it's slow. But you know what? Everybody's voice is heard. And that matters. And some people, I don't care how they fix the road. I'm just, yes, do it, right? Yes, do it. Some people really care about the fine details and things, and they get to be as detail-oriented as they want to be. And some people don't, and they don't have to be. It's beautiful. And that's why I wrote, but you have to show up to be heard. You don't get to not show up to a decision and complain about it later. It doesn't work that way. That's not consensus, right? You got to show up and participate and find the common denominator, the solution that everybody can agree to. Last year, we were raising money for our electrical system. We raised it. We got a grant. It's halfway done. It's going slow. There's other projects I want to raise money for. So if you know anyone who's looking for a 501c3 in the United States and wants to contribute to building something really beautiful, we've got a long list of projects in our strategic plan that need to be accomplished. So anyway, Greenbrier is where I live. And it's where I've spent the past 5 years learning how to do community. I thought I knew when I showed up. And I found out I don't. I didn't. And I think I'm figuring it out, right? But this was like a throw your feet to the fire kind of thing. And I wasn't totally sure about it until I was. But that's the cool thing about community. You can't show up in desperation and expect to have a long-term relationship. Everybody needs to vet each other, and that can take years. I strongly believe that if you haven't gone through conflict, you don't know if you can live or work together. You just don't know. This applies to marriages and friendships, to businesses, roommates. I mean, how many people have had a falling out with a roommate, like in college or something? First time you have conflict, whoa. I didn't know you were gonna yell like that, you know? Like, it can be surprising. So it's really important, in my opinion, that we are going through the getting to know you process slowly and gently. We're giving grace for stepping on each other's toes, but we're also setting strong boundaries and not letting no one knock us over, right? I think that's so important. And so if you find yourself showing up somewhere and you get the opportunity, the blessed opportunity to go through conflict, you can probably feel in your body if it's a good fit or not. When a community can do conflict in a healthful way, it doesn't cause all this, right? That's what I'm looking for. That's the new standard in my life. No more Ron Paul 2008, no more police accountability, getting arrested, da-da-da-da-da. That was exhausting. I can't do it, right? I want to build the next thing. I feel like I put in my time fighting the last thing. I gave it my all. I think I did a good job. But I'm ready for the next thing, right? And the next thing is them. Whether you have children or not, I do. Vit does. Jeff does. Kristaps and Laura do. Do you notice the kid crew grew this year from last year? It about doubled in size. It's so cute. I love it that these children are building an international tribe just like we are. Josie and Aliana, who's here, and my son Bill, they have met freedom-minded children literally all over the world. They're building these skills at the same time as I am, and they get to grow up with those skills. I had to learn them now, so I'm only going to get to experience the blessings of having learned those skills for a shorter period of time in my life, right? So I actually feel grateful and excited when we have the opportunity to do conflict. It's not always fun. Sometimes it makes me more tired than I should have been. Sometimes it makes me less productive than I could be. But in the end, it's always worth it, because you learn who people are, and you get to decide and reinforce who you are. I didn't used to do conflict well. I got triggered and loud and cried a lot. A lot. She says, that's enough talking. I actually have no idea what time it is, or how long I've been talking, or have. So does anybody have a question? Does anybody want to say something? Does anybody have a thought? Justin ran for a mic.
Somebody is bound to have a question.
Yeah, it's just a thought, really. I spent the past year in a university learning about education. And I've read a lot of academic books on education, all the way back to the 19th century, 1920s, Piaget, all sorts of stuff. And everything you said about education is what all these academic people are saying in the books. It's what they're teaching at my university. But then I go into a school, and it's opposite world. They do exactly opposite to what every single person that spent time thinking about education and how to treat kids. And in schools, they just do the absolute opposite. In public schools, I'm talking about, of course. Just a thought. It's been on my mind all summer, because I'm going to have to, unfortunately, get a regular job in a school when I come back to England. But I thought I'd put those thoughts to you.
Well, that's a sad thought. And it's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about homeschooling. There's a certain environment that I don't personally like being exposed to, and I don't want my children being exposed to. And what I have found is that since nothing really existed that was in alignment with my values, I picked a program where I got to participate and help create it. And so far, that's working out really well. Also want to mention the European Education Conference is coming up right now. And Amy, who was in the Game of Village documentary, was actually going to come to that. So I was trying to get her to speak. She's the one who ran Game of Village in Serbia. So I'm going to try to get her next year. It's like people are showing up like right now for that conference. It's this weekend. Yeah, check it out. European Education Conference, it's in Belgrade. Yeah, if you're going Monday, you can probably pop in.
Any more questions?
Well, after the documentary ended, we were having a really, really awesome conversation, because I think what this program inspires is a type of creativity that unlocks magic. And if children are allowed to carry that magic into adulthood, it's really incredible to see what they can do. You know, I live with families who are third generation Greenbrier. And so many of them are artists or work at Renaissance festivals and act or play music, or in some way are creative and have found a way to monetize their skills, talents, and preferences. And I'm so inspired by that, because where I grew up, in the suburbs, you know, most people end up working for a corporation. And so to see people who have created a life for themselves and within their family units where they get to be so creative and so entrepreneurial, and many of them have long breaks in between gigs where they get to like do community when they're home. It's really neat, and it makes me feel like the idea of Liberland is possible, right? Because when you think about how reliant we are on all of the centralized institutions, it's hard to imagine who will build the roads, who will run the electrical line. Well, when you see that people can actually do it themselves, it's reassuring, right? And it gives you faith and confidence that we can take some of these big ideas, like the ones those children have, and make something real and tangible, like the kids in Game of Village do. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kat.